How y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade. Today we're going to talk about the AEW conference call and some important points that took place therein. But first, also, hit me with the like, hit me with the subscription. Y'all know the deal by now. Okay, so these are notes. Give credit to Connor Casey. I don't know who that is. I have no idea who that is, but he deserves credit. He listed all of these bullet points that I happened to find on Twitter. Somebody retweeted them. So we're going to go through these. It's about, I don't know, about 14 dots. Some of these things are not interesting. I'll read them just in case you didn't see them, but I probably don't have that much to say on them. So let's see. Dot number one. Tony says these special editions of Dynamite are to prevent the oversaturation of the pay-per-view schedule. Teases another for later in December. Says Blood and Guts will return. Okay. I'm all right with, AEW not wanting to do too many pay-per-views. They need to be more judicious about what their main events are. Again, Moxley versus Kingston was not a pay-per-view main event. It just wasn't. Tony Khan bullet point number two. Tony Khan tells Dave Meltzer that Moxley and Omega will be the show's main event. Says the show will be formatted like a pay-per-view card. Okay, that's a softball question. Dave Meltzer also asks about Brody Lee's status. Tony Khan says he can't comment on why he's gone, but hopes he'll be back soon. Well, isn't that suspicious? Why is it that when somebody is missing from AEW, there is no follow-up? There is no accusations of the guy's fired or creative has nothing for you or he's in limbo or he's dead or his dog died or, he's getting run out of the company. Vince McMahon threw him from Titan Towers. There's nothing. There's never anything. It's almost always a full-on acceptance that, okay, well, he's gone. Poof. Poof! This 6'6" individual just disappeared. Poof! Just gone. And nobody knows why. Nobody there. And somebody asked a question about it, and they're like, "Well, I can't really answer. Can't really tell you. Can't tell you." But let somebody be gone from Raw for 2 weeks. All of a sudden, there's 100 fucking conspiracy theories about the guy being shoved in Vince McMahon's personal locker in his office somewhere. It's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, bullet point number 4. Tony Khan, I'm seriously considering splitting AEW Dark into multiple developmental shows. You know what? That might not be a bad idea. I've heard from people who actually watch Dark that the show is getting a little long. That it used to be an hour, now it's like an hour and a half. I don't know because I don't watch Dark, but if it's getting that long, then maybe you do need to break it up. But I don't see why AEW needs to have a developmental considering like you have people on the roster that are not doing that well. And yeah, I know we all know Nia Jax is a big lumbering idiot who screws up on Raw, and so is Lana. She's also a kind of a goof. But for most part, WWE does not really put unprofessional people on TV. Like they kind of avoid it. NXT can't really be helped because NXT is developmental. But for Raw and SmackDown, it's very rare that you find people who just can't cut the mustard on TV. But Dark is Dark. And I don't know what you do. Like, are you going to have another tape-in day? You going to tape on a different day? Because if you're just going to have one really long show and just say, oh, we're going to break it into 2 shows, well, it's the same taping. So what's the difference? And then how are you going to have people on Dark and then also tell other people, oh, well, you guys are not even worth putting on Dark? Wow. That's kind of, you might as well not even have them on the show. I mean, I know they got to get ring time to work, but I don't know what to tell them. You might as well just shorten Dark. That's what you can do. If these people are not prepared, don't put them on Dark. Don't even put them on Dark. Keep them in your gym. I know they have a gym. I think it's the Night Fit. I think Dustin has a gym. Yeah, keep those guys there. It's not a problem. Tony, bullet point number 5 or whatever. Tony Khan says the Acclaimed was his idea and that the two didn't even know they'd be teaming when they first met. I don't know who the Acclaimed are. Are these the rapping guys I saw a clip of? If these are the rapping dudes, I wish I didn't know. Here's something interesting. Bullet point number 6 or whatever the hell. Tony Khan said their current television deal is $175 million over the course of 4 years. So 175 million divided by 4. We can do that math, right? We can do that. Let's see, 175 million divided by 4 is 43 million let's say $43.8 million. Let's put it like that. Let's round it up because it was really 75. But You know, if it's a 5 or above, you can just round it to 8. So let's say $43.8 million per year for um, AEW Dynamite. Uh, that's not too bad. You know, for one show a week, that's not too bad. You know, but you would have to look at what's going on as far as, you know, whether they're, if they're spending too much money and all this type of stuff. You have to look at their budgets. How much are they paying these individual talents? Like, how much are they paying, like, Jericho? And then also you have to look at production. Who's paying the production cost? Is Turner paying production costs, or is AEW paying production costs? Because, you know, WCW, they was doing a lot of finagling, where they would have a lot of their higher level budget items would just be on Turner's payroll. So that's why when, you know, when the WCW went out of business, the WWE couldn't just bring in Goldberg and Hogan and some of those other people because they were on Turner's payroll. And TNA had done the same thing. They would do direct deals with the company, and I'm pretty sure they'd still do that kind of stuff now, where, you know, the tippy top guys are not signed to the company, but they're on the payroll of the parent company. I'm pretty sure WWE is the only one that doesn't do something like that because the parent company is WWE. You know, well, back in the day it was Titan Sports, but it was the same thing, right? So I'm pretty sure USA Network is not paying, like, you know, paying Drew McIntyre to be there, or Brock Lesnar to be there. That's kind of ridiculous. And plus, if that was the case, then, you know, they'd probably be a little bit more strict on what's going on. But $43.8 million per year is probably not that bad. They probably don't spend that much on talent, despite the fact that they pay us so well. You know, you're not overpaying these guys because there's so many of them. And I saw recently that Cody was just discussing. He was shooting the shit up with that referee lady, and he was talking about they have a payment schedule. They have the schedule where there's per appearance for a lot of people. I think he was talking about Red Velvet, and he was like, he don't know what kind of deal she has. She's paid per appearance, which is basically independent contractor. You can come work for us, and then you can just zip on over to NWA, zip on over to Ring of Honor, because you're only being paid to show up. And then there's when you're all elite, and then there's tiers from there. So there's like tier A, tier B, tier C. Then he says tier Jericho, which obviously speaks for itself that Jericho is paid more than anybody else on the roster. But then there's like tiers for everybody else. So I guess it would be like, if you're Moxley, you'd probably be on the higher levels, probably somewhere near Jericho, but not at Jericho's level. But if you're, you know, Brian Cage, you might be like a mid tier, along with like Lance Archer, because these guys have experience. They have time in the business. You know, these guys could probably go. You know, they're a little older, but they have a lot of experience. They have TV experience, stuff like that. So it depends on their pay schedule about whether, you know, we should be concerned about how much money they spend. But I really wouldn't be too concerned. It seems to be okay. Most of the dark talent seems to be paid per appearance, and it's probably not that much. So it's probably not going to be a big deal. Let's see, the next bullet point. Tony Khan says, I'm seriously thinking about making AEW Trios Championships. It's on the agenda, but it won't be until 2021. I mean, I saw this coming. I absolutely saw the Trios Championships coming. The Lucha Libre infused wrestling that we've been getting over the last 20 years or so. Pretty much, you know, and then when he brought in the Elite as a trio, and then, you know, of course he was start doing the Death Triangle and all this type of stuff, you just kind of saw that they were doing teams of 3. Now you could just see they were doing the trios thing. They did introduce a championship in 2020, so we're introducing another championship in 2021. Okay, but they need to do something with that women's division. So they need to, instead of trying to find, you know, an extended tag team division, you know, which I don't understand the concept of having a trios division and a tag team division. I don't know. That's just me. Like, I like the idea of, you know, having a trios division or a tag team division. But if you're going to have both, okay, whatever. But they have a women's championship they need to put some effort into. So let's say the next bullet point says Tony Khan said he asked permission from Warner to use the Game of Thrones "Winter is Coming" tagline. They said yes. Nope. Okay. Who cares? Tony Khan says the next one. Tony Khan says I'm planning a big Christmas and New Year's event. Okay. Now I like the idea of a New Year's show. This is something that TNA used to do that I think was a really good original TNA idea. Is that they wanted to be the first show that started at 12 o'clock on New Year's Day. And I forget what that show was called. But I loved it. Like, I think holidays, you should shoot for holidays. Back when, like Thanksgiving was just a couple of days ago in the United States. That used to be a big wrestling thing. Christmas is another one, big wrestling. I don't know about the Christmas idea as far as you making guys work on Christmas. I know it's a different world now. People, I think, when you see Jim Cornette, he talks about, oh, hell, we made big money on Thanksgiving, big money on Christmas. It's like, yeah, but this is a new breed of athlete. These guys now, they don't want to work on Christmas. They don't want to work on Thanksgiving. They would rather be at home because they have guaranteed contracts. They would rather be at home, So, but New Year's is completely different because New Year's is a party night. So there's not going to be a lot of people watching TV at midnight on New Year's Day. But if you do New Year's Day maybe later in the day, instead of trying to be exactly at midnight, and then somebody's trying to be hugged up with somebody's daughter or somebody's son at midnight on New Year's. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. But later that day, later that day, there's all the college football games, so it's hard to do. Maybe you will have to do it at like 12 o'clock and go from like 12 to 1 or something like that. Or do it in the afternoon on New Year's Day. Because New Year's Day is very college football heavy with all of those bowl games and all that stuff. That's heavy competition. Like, that is heavy competition. You're likely to get killed, if you try to run a show on New Year's night. You're likely to get brutalized. And then you never know what day New Year's Day is going to be. Like, if New Year's Day is on a Monday, and then Raw is going to be on, and then also the bowl games are going to be on, you're going to get crushed. So it's kind of hard to say which, but I do like the idea of doing a New Year's show, and it should be yearly, and you should do a New Year's episode. I think everybody should. I think WWE should. I also think the AEW should steal the halftime heat idea. WWE is not going to do it anymore because they're partnered with NBC. I believe NBC still has the Super Bowl. So they're partnered with NBC. They're not going to be doing halftime heat, competing with the Super Bowl halftime show. But AEW can do it. They can call it whatever they want. Just have one match, show it on Turner, 20 minutes or whatever, or put it on YouTube like WWE did. They put it up on the network. You can put it up on YouTube, have one match, have it taped in advance or something like that, and knock it out. That would be great. I fully support those ideas. The next bullet point, Tony Khan said, Cody came up with Britt Baker's waiting room. Kenny Omega came up with the Eliminator tournament. Neither one of these are like groundbreaking. Like, why? Who gives a fuck? Let's see. Tony Khan says, Miro is going to be huge here. I don't want to wait until January to bring him in. Couldn't just shoot him right into the main event picture. Why would he need to wait in January? Like, I don't understand that. Like, why would he need to wait? A guy got fired in April. His 90 days ends up in April, May, June, July. It ended in like July. I think he showed up in October or September or something like that. Why would he have needed to wait until January? That doesn't make any sense. Let's see. Tony Khan says Miro has been abused for years, and he's being built back up now in AEW. Also calls out some jackass, quote unquote, some jackass on Twitter for bringing up his WrestleMania tank entrance. Okay, so this is a big deal. I'm so tired of hearing that Rusev has been abused. I'm so sick of that shit. I don't know where this came from because the last storyline he was in was a cuck angle, which Last I checked was his idea. Matter of fact, let me check that. Let me take a pause for a minute and check that to make sure it's correct. Okay, so after doing a little research, I'm not sure if it was his idea, but there is a lot of conflict around the whole idea. In December, there was articles of Rusev defending the angle, saying it's fiction and people like Scandal and it's the biggest, longest running, um, it's the biggest drawing thing on YouTube in a long, long time, and people are talking about it. It's important. Yada yada yada. He's into the storyline. After he leaves WWE and he's doing a thing with Chris Van Vliet, he's talking about how there was no follow through, and that seems to be the problem. That he wanted there to be some follow through, but because it wasn't, he doesn't. That's what he didn't like about it. But it's also a thing where he said like they're actors, they're acting. It's not that big of a deal, And he says like everybody's worried about him, but Bobby Lashley is also married, and his wife has got to see that, his kids have to see that, and stuff like that. But anyway, there's no way that you can say that Rusev was being abused. Let's look at what they did for Rusev here in his first year. Rusev's first year in the company, which was what, 2014, 2015 maybe. Choked out the Big Show, choked out Mark Henry, choked out Jack Swagger, beat John Cena at Fastlane, wrestled John Cena at WrestleMania when he rode in a tank, had an extended feud with John Cena that, of course, didn't end until an I Quit match. I forget what month that is. That was like his first year and a half into the company with him mostly undefeated. Then he, of course, hit the John Cena wall. And then he had the first feud with Lana when Lana left him for Dolph Ziggler. That, of course, created some really good stuff. What him calling Lana a cold fish, and he was being the heel in the relationship, and then Lana was teaming up with Dolph Ziggler and all that type of stuff, and then they blew that up by getting married, and then I think this was kind of when they started doing the whole Rusev Day thing. Not too long after that, I think he hit a skid because they had, fucked up that storyline. And then they started doing the Rusev Day thing, and Rusev Day was super over. He got to main event a pay-per-view. He won the U.S. title a bunch of more. He won the U.S. title again. He main evented SmackDown a bunch of times. And, but the idea that he's been abused is kind of silly. It's absolutely silly. Like, sure, there's been some things that maybe other people wouldn't be involved in, like the whole stuff with, again, him and Lana. But Lana was an actress before she was a wrestler. And I think Rusev understands that more than anybody, is that, Lana was in TV shows and stuff before she was a wrestler. She's done sex scenes and, make out scenes and stuff like that before. That's why he said, in this interview that I saw about the angle, the Lashley angle, that they're used to it because they're professionals. So, these kinds of things that people keep talking about, oh, he's been abused. It's like, how is he not being abused by you doing video game shit with him? Like, I don't understand that. You doing video game storylines and him hanging out with this Ken doll is not abusive? How is he being built up? That's what I want to know. Building him up to what? He's not in any title picture, even though he could clearly be a champion. I'm not saying he needs to be the world champion, but, he's far more important than fucking Darby Allin. He could have crushed Darby Allin. This is the guy. I'm pretty sure you're paying him more than you're paying Darby Allin. And I know that, fans really like Darby Allin, but you could have just have him, but they don't know how to book big guys in AEW. They really should just have Rusev come in, crush Darby Allin, win that title. Or, who had the championship before Darby when he came in? I think it might have been, who was it, Brody Lee? I mean, you knew Miro was going to be a babyface when he came in. So why not have Miro and Brody Lee from the jump? Could have had them work a nice little feud, and do some cool stuff together as two guys who are just left WWE. Or you could have put him with Matt Hardy and had him do cool stuff with Matt Hardy. You could have done a number of things with him that they chose not to do. Instead, they chose to team him up with Kip Sabian, a guy they weren't even using before Miro showed up. A guy who wasn't even on TV, who was one of those guys who would have been on AEW Dark. And that's building him up. These people are ass kissers because there is not a lot of critical thinking when it comes to this whole Miro thing. So Mike from PW Insider, this is the last bullet point. Oh, also the tank at WrestleMania was fucking awesome, and it should be the highlight of his career. It was awesome. It was fantastic stuff, and that should have told you WWE was serious about him. Now, he may have hit a wall at some point, but he was the man. And everybody's going to remember him having a tank at WrestleMania. You're not going to be able to surpass that unless you're going to have the guy jump from a helicopter. Or, you're going to have Rusev fly a helicopter to Daly's place. No? Then, well, you're going to have to deal with the fact that the tank was badass, dude. Get over it. Anyway, so Mike from PW Insider asked about Tony's tweet where he promised the balance of power would shift. Tony responded, "Did I get heat or did I get buzz?" Okay, so he's a douchebag because he got heat from a lot of people. Maybe not from these ass kissers who want to, pretend he doesn't do anything wrong, but there was a lot of people who were pissed because of that whole under delivering. Let's put it like that. That it was very blah. It really kind of made people poo-poo Pac, who, most people seem to like. But when people were like, that's it? If I was Pac, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, damn. You look at how you got these people reacting to little old me. They supposed to be happy I'm back. But instead, you got people thinking you were bringing in, some uber monster, to real, like Brock or something that you really about to, like you bringing in Hogan in 84 or something like that. Like it's really about to change something and it's just me. I was already on the show. I was on the show last week. But that was the last bullet point. This has been really weird as far as a lot of these the conference calls, man. I'm not a big fan of them because they seem to be kind of love-ins, or they're trying to jam you up. Like, I don't know. Maybe I should take a look and see if anybody asked them about TV ratings and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure nobody did, and pretty much nobody cared, and all this type of stuff. But it's just weird how Tony Khan gets away with a lot, and he's never asked, or they ask him questions, but they don't try to force him to answer any questions. So it's really weird. But thank you guys for listening. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. Thank you guys for support, and I'll talk to you guys later.